How's it going, everyone? This is the Anime Man. For the longest time, many people in the anime community have debated and argued about whether everything anime and otaku related has finally entered the mainstream, whatever the hell that means. Within that talk, a lot of people have argued that, yes, if there's suddenly been this rush of Hollywood stars and celebrities who have never, up until this point, even uttered the word anime, that have now all of a sudden started naming off their waifus and their hair inspos, then it probably does mean that these weird Japanese cartoons have finally taken over the Western world like a bad virus. Meanwhile, on the opposite end of the spectrum, people are saying no. No matter what anyone says, anime is still a huge niche subculture in the West, let alone in the motherland that it came from. And it's still gonna take many, many years or decades, if ever, for something as strange and weird as Japanese cartoons to finally be accepted fully in the Western world. Since you can argue that both sides of the argument seem fairly modest and fairly fair with their points, it's almost as if this whole standardization of mainstreamism is a subjective thing. Who would have thought? What I personally think fits into the mainstream may not exactly correlate with you or my mum or your mum's ideas of what mainstream is. No offense to your mum, you know how it is. But a little while ago, somebody over on Japanese Twitter decided to finally step their foot down to end this discussion on is anime mainstream by creating a little JPEG image that, quite frankly, destroyed the anime community for a little bit. But then, of course, everybody went back to doing their own thing because this is the anime community. Like the eggs in my refrigerator last longer than drama in the anime community. But even though there was such a destructive force behind this one image on Japanese Twitter, I decided that I'm going to show you guys this image and to actually create this little think piece video on it because I genuinely find it to be something that's quite interesting, especially if you do really wonder about is anime mainstream. And I'm honestly surprised that nobody in the Attitude community has really covered this point up until now. So let's cut to the chase. Here is the picture in question right here. On the left, you can see series like Ghost in the Shell, Akira, and your other standard high-budget anime films from well-known studios like Ghibli. And on the right, you can see well-known series like Sword Art Online, Steins Gate, ReZero, and Clannad. But the biggest argument from this image is based upon how these sets of series have been categorized in this image. Because according to this Japanese Twitter user, the series on the left are what we consider world-class anime, while the series on the right are what is considered as, I kid you not, what otakus think are world-class anime. Hold on, I gotta sprinkle the salt from a distance. Now, I know already, just by me saying that, there are a few gasps of horror and shakings of triggeredness from some of you guys, but let's calm down and break this picture down. First and foremost, do I agree with this graph and how these series have been categorized? To an extent, yes, actually. But I also do think it's kind of unfair and kind of biased to compare these sets of series to each other, let alone the same series within the same categories, because again, as I mentioned at the start of this video, the concept of what is considered mainstream, or I guess in this case, world class, is quite a subjective thing. And I feel we really need to understand as to how this person actually broke down this image. Like, what exactly defines, from this person's eyes, these are world class and these are what otakus think are world class. If we're talking in the sense of the budget that it took to make it, then yes, the facts absolutely don't lie. It is common knowledge that a lot of money and budget goes into films like The Wind Rises and Akira, but you also have to remember that these are anime films. Although not necessarily the case all of the time, based purely on its length and its production, movies generally tend to have a much higher budget and cost compared to TV series and OVAs. Because think about it this way, if Ghibli ever made a 24 episode TV series with the same quality as The Wind Rises, which side of the graph would it sit on? Or what if they say released a Clannad movie with the same kickstarting budget as In This Corner of the World did? Which side would that sit on? I mean, let's just disregard that second example for already existing, because even from a Clannad fanboy myself, that shit was pretty forgettable. Why, you treat me so wrong-minded, June? Maybe then the graph is based upon core demographics. Since regardless of what kind of anime you're into, it is fairly evident that the series labeled as world-class tend to have or is known to have a much larger fan base universally compared to the series on the right. Even people who aren't fans of anime can recognize a Studio Ghibli film or a Ghost in the Shell reference from time to time. Hell, it can be argued that there are more fans of movies and franchises like that in the West compared to in Japan. See, that would make a lot of sense 10 to 20 years ago, but not today. I think it's fairly safe to say that there are more universally what is regarded as fans of anime on a global scale, rather than fans of anime in anime, based purely on the fact that there are more people living in the rest of the world than anime. The more you know! Yes, there are millions of fans of Ghost in the Shell. I mean, there's a reason why it has such a cult following in the West. So much so that it inspired a number of non-anime films like The Matrix and Avatar, among many, many others. But if you think about it, series like Sword Art Online have also been massively successful over the years it's been out. The only reason why Ghost in the Shell is seen as more popular could be because it's had a 15-year head start over SAO in terms of release date. Also because Ghost in the Shell is just much better show compared to SAO, but I mean, I don't have to stress that in this video right now. But regardless of whether you personally enjoy Ghost in the Shell and or SAO, there is absolutely no denying that both of these series have had massive influence over in Japan and in the West in their respective ways. Yes, both series are completely different genres from one another, and they have both inspired different artists and artworks. But I can also argue that both series have been just as influential as one another in their respective mediums. Because to over-exaggerate my point, it's kinda like if I was trying to compare Gone with the Wind with the Super Mario Bros. Franchise. Whether you like or hate Gone with the Wind or Mario, there is absolutely no denying the massive influential pulling power that both of these series have had in society. And to put one above the other in any way, shape, or form just boils down to personal preference rather than an objective standoff of statistics. Basically what I'm trying to say is, it's apples and oranges. Like, there is no justifiable way to compare the two, and it certainly goes with the case with core demographics of these world-class and otaku-level world-class series. I actually found out that according to the original poster of this image on Japanese Twitter, the reasoning behind why they chose those specific anime in those specific categories had to boil down to its artistic value. And I can kind of understand what they're going for. I mean, Ghost in the Shell explores many philosophical and epistemological elements of humanity, while In This Corner of the World portrays a strangely somber beauty to war and explores the importance of family in gruesome yet realistic ways. Both of which are no doubt very, very artistically high valued, and I love both of them, but I will stand here and cry out and say, you is unfair! Because I'm sure you don't need me to say that there is a clear bias when it came to selecting the series on the left as opposed to selecting the series on the right. Depending on who you ask, it might be true that they say that yes, series like Steins Gate, ReZero, SAO may not be as artistically valued as the series on the left. It might not be as emotional and powerful or OMG so deep as the left-hand side counterparts. But then I would stand here and argue that a series like Clannad has plenty of artistic value. It's a series that explores the importance of family, friends, and loved ones at the expense of others, and deals with the concept of growing out of your own families and learning to adapt into a new one. The fact that me and many other anime fans out there cried their eyeballs out watching it whilst taking some important life lessons away from something like Clannad is proof enough that this series has highly engaging and important artistic values. And Clannad is definitely not an exception. There are plenty of other TV anime series out there that have extremely deep and artistic values. Look at series like Serial Experiments Lane, Haibanerinme, Wolf's Rain, or Ergo Proxy. Yes, they may not be as popular as, say, Ghost in the Shell or Akira to the West or even in Japan, but the artistic values that hide underneath their narratives are just as deep and artistic, if not sometimes more deep and artistic than its movie counterparts. And that's not to say that more popular series are a complete exception to this rule. I mean, look at popular series like Psycho Pass or Neon Genesis Evangelion, both of which are not only highly popular with their respective fan bases, but are also very deep and very psychologically driven with the topics they discuss in their narratives. So now we're back to the beginning. If it's not budget, if it's not core demographics, hell, if it's not even artistic values, then what is it? I thought of other options. I thought maybe it has to do with their gross box office success, but again, it's a little bit unfair to compare feature-length films that were released in cinemas and TV series that were only ever on TV. I even went as far as to think that maybe it has to be categorized by the person who created it, the directors, the producers, the studios even. But no, that doesn't seem to be it either. So what is it? What is the one thing that is making this random Japanese Twitter user to create a JPEG and to categorize these movies and TV series into the way that he did? I thought about it long and hard and I came up with the answer, and honestly, I think it's nothing more than personal judgment and bias. I know that might seem really anticlimactic, especially if you've been watching this video up until now, but there really isn't any other explanation for it. I mean, think about it. If you showed this image to hundreds and thousands of people, which I am doing right now as I'm making this video, there is no way that all 100,000 of you will agree with the way that this picture has been categorized. Just because one random Japanese Twitter user anime fan decided that Akira is a world-class anime, that doesn't automatically make it a universally world-class anime. I honestly don't even think it's possible, not even fucking quantifiable, to try and categorize anime, films, and TV shows in this way. Because now there are actually a bunch of forum posts over on some Japanese discussion websites where people are trying to use this image and use these two categorizations to try and categorize every single anime film, every single OVA, every single TV special of anime that has ever been created into these two categories. And all I have to say to that is, good fucking luck, fam. While this picture may seem pointless and really stupid to the point that it'll get a bunch of people saltier than your uncle's armpits, I also do think that it is a very important and quite interesting picture to look at and think about. Even if you don't necessarily agree with that statement right now, the fact that this picture even exists, the fact that this discussion of what is considered a world-class anime, what can we label as an anime that the mainstream world, the mainstream outside world has deemed as a cool thing? The fact that a discussion like this has even started is solid proof enough that, yeah, it might possibly be moving into the mainstream, and it might possibly be a thing that a lot of otakus are just starting to accept. And as I was researching this topic for this video, I actually came across some really cool arguments for both sides of the spectrum. A lot of people are arguing that anime will never become mainstream due to the fundamental core differences in culture between Japan and the West. While other people are saying, open your eyes, motherfucker, because anime has actually been mainstream for a number of years up until this point, and this picture just proves that notion. And look, yes, I get it if you think that discussing a picture like this and making a whole video about it is pointless and stupid and, oh, Joey's run out of ideas, but the more respectable and reasonable anime fans out there have actually been having a really fun time discussing this one image right here. As am I. Like, I'm really enjoying discussing this one stupid image that this one random Japanese Twitter user created just on a whim. And, you know, even though I do disagree with a lot of the points about it, as you heard in this video, I do also think it is an absolutely fascinating one. Also, I just love people getting extremely salty about this kind of stuff. And that's my entertainment for the day. So now that you've heard me ramble on about this one picture, I'm gonna hand the question over to you guys. What do you guys think? Do you agree or disagree with any of the elements presented in this picture? Also, what do you think about the supposed mainstreamism of anime as a medium? Do you think it's going to take a little longer for anime to become mainstream? Do you think it's already mainstream? Do you think it will never become mainstream? I'm really interested to know your thoughts, so I want you guys to leave all that kind of stuff in the comments below. Also, if there are any other interesting topics, articles, discussions, and all that that you would like me to create a think piece like this about, then the best place to do it is over on my Twitter. Follow me there, link me your articles, and I'll definitely check out the interesting ones and perhaps make a video about it. This video idea and this picture was actually brought to my attention by one of you lovely mofos over on my Twitter, so I definitely checked them out, and you guys have done a fantastic job giving me suggestions in the past couple of rants. So again, follow me on Twitter and let me know all that good shit. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. As always, like and favorite if you enjoyed, subscribe for more anime banner, and I'll see you guys in the next video of whatever I make. Keep watching anime. Ciao!